This week, U.S. officials, including Tillerson, Madison, Mnuchin, hosted officials from Qatar for a U.S.-Qatar strategic dialogue. This was a big American show of support for Doha that flew in the face of Saudi Arabia and the UAE, following an aggressive campaign that they launched last summer to isolate and destabilize Qatar for its ties to Iran and the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, remember that U.S. President Donald Trump initially endorsed the Saudi and Emirati isolation campaign against Qatar, but has since moderated his stance. So, what are the main takeaways of the Qatar crisis? 1. Remember your geopolitical foundation. It's in the U.S. strategic interest to maintain a balance of power among different competing Gulf powers to maintain its foothold in that region and its military footprint. It can't afford to take sides. This geopolitical analysis told us from the very beginning that it was only a matter of time before the U.S. reaffirmed its strategic support for Qatar. 2. It helps to appeal to the White House's business posture. During this visit, Qatar highlighted a host of investments, including a $10 billion infrastructure investment into the U.S. Qatar also agreed to increase financial transparency for its aviation industry. And this is a big demand coming from the U.S. aviation industry that complains that Gulf airlines are unfairly subsidized. 3. PR matters. Qatar had a very effective PR campaign throughout this crisis. They framed themselves as the victim, and they also framed the Saudi and Emirati moves as unreasonable. Even a recent UN report regarded the Gulf Quartet's moves as not credible. The PR paid off. 4. There is such thing as moderation in foreign policy coming from this White House. Now, it's easy to get distracted from time to time by the splashier tweets that suggest a major departure in U.S. foreign policy, but moderation can come through in the end. Now, this is why it's important to keep an eye on any reshuffles that could affect the professionals within the establishment that advocate that more pragmatic approach. This is also an important thing to bear in mind when we look at the likely outcomes of major foreign policy crises in play. That includes things like Iran and the fate of the JCPOA, the potential for a military strike against North Korea that would be extremely costly. It also affects things like the U.S.-Pakistan relationship, which is very antagonistic, as well as the future of U.S.-China trade relations.